Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking around and hanging out. It's been a wonderful Saturday. I've been having fun. I hope you guys have been as well. Welcome to our panel. This is Sci-Fi Beyond Star Trek. And we are very blessed to have some amazing panelists, including myself, I guess, as well. I'm calling myself amazing. Here we go. All right. Yeah! All right. So let's start at the end. Please introduce yourself. What is your franchise and who do you play?
Hi, guys. My name is Gigi Edgley, and I played Chiana on Farscape, and I was the host of Jim Henson's Creature Shop Challenge. I've done lots. It's actually interesting. My main body of work is actually not sci-fi, and it's all in Australia, so I don't think you would have seen it. A couple of shows are on Amazon, Rescue Special Ops and Tricky Business, so you can check them out. But yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Jackson, and you will only know me from the Orville, and I play Isaac on that. We've done 3 seasons, and it's not over yet, but it also isn't confirmed. So we're in limbo, as we always are with the Orville. But yeah, thanks for watching, if you have, and continue to watch if there's more, please. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very grateful to be here with you. I'm Jacob, and I live in Chicago, and I did one season with a show called The Expanse, and we shot in Toronto, Canada, and I play this this backstory kind of origin story character of one of the series regulars, and I'm Erich, and I'm this dark underworld drug dealer, human trafficker that the main characters have to do business with to accomplish the season's, objective. And I'm nothing like that in real life.
I don't know. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Rico Anderson. I have done the sci-fi franchises from Star Trek to the Orville, and I provided voice work for Batman Arkham Knight as well. And it's interesting because I'm also from Chicago, and Chi-Town, baby. And but I also have I play in flashback scenes on the TV show S.W.A.T. also, and it's interesting with flashback scenes because I'm playing a younger version of whatever the character is on the present day. So I play Shamara Moore's father on the TV show S.W.A.T., but again in flashback scenes, because when I have to say the flashback part because everybody's like, wait a minute, you don't look like you should be old enough to be Shamara Moore's father, but there it is. So that's my backstory. Let's start off with I'd like to know. So as we've all done our respective franchises, how much would you say Star Trek in some way, shape, or form plays into just the makeup of the franchise that you all are a part of? And in that notion, were you ever fans of Star Trek before? Did you know of it? Did you not even give a damn? Or what? Or was it just? Or were your respective jobs just a job?
Shall I start?
Sure.
It's an obvious one, I suppose, isn't it? The Orville, I think, is a love letter to Star Trek, particularly Next Generation.
Yes.
Partly because Seth MacFarlane, who wrote it, and, well, he does everything for it. He stars in it, writes it, directs it. He is it, basically. The Orville is Seth. He grew up with Next Generation as well. And I believe this story is correct. He went to the relevant people and asked them if he could do the next Star Trek. This was before Discovery. They said no. So he said, sod you, I'm going to go and do my own show then. And it did turn out to be a beautiful love letter to Star Trek. We premiered at the same time as Discovery. And it was very interesting to see what the Trekkies thought of the two shows. I'm sure you've all got a lot of opinions. Fascinating, because I started doing Comic-Cons around that time. So we had a lot of people coming up saying, oh, thank you for doing a show that's more Star Trek than Star Trek is right now. And I thought that was lovely to hear. I also grew up on Next Generation, watching it and being desperately jealous of all the actors in it. So it was wonderful when I got the part in the Orville and I got to go to space and be an alien and do all the fantastic things you can in science fiction. So for me, it's quite an obvious connection, I think, with the Orville, and particularly my own journey in loving sci-fi before I got the job. I've read a lot of sci-fi. I'm a huge fan of Ian M. Banks. I don't know if anyone's read his books. So yeah, it was always a dream to be involved in sci-fi, and when it happened, I was very, very happy about it. It is just a job, of course, as well, as you say. You know, I think for actors, we're so lucky to get any of the jobs we do because it's an oversaturated market, and by God, it's great when you do get a job. But it is a job, and I think it's good to remember that because you have to apply yourself to it, even if it feels like a dream or a vocational, come true. So yeah, all of those things.
I did Star Trek Continues, so that was very Trekky. Yeah. And before that, I wasn't really a huge Trekkie, although one of my best mates is Rod Roddenberry. So you
told him.
Yeah. And so we have very big, deep and meaningfuls. And he actually said, I'm in your episode. I said, how cool is that Rod Roddenberry is saying he's in my episode of Star Trek? And I was like, you are? Where? And he's actually on the bridge. And I went to rewatch it. I'm like, there you are. I didn't even know that because we were shooting on different days. But he doesn't have any lines. I said, why didn't you have any lines? Like, you could have said whatever. He goes, I can't act. And actually, if you watch, when the camera comes onto him, he's like... But I didn't know, like, as an actor with the Star Trek Continues, I didn't really want to watch a lot of Trek before I went on there because I just wanted to tell this story. And it was a really deep, very dark story. And I didn't really want to be influenced by what I saw, if that made any sense. So I go to set and everyone's such big Trekkies. And they give me a prop and I'm like, oh no, I have no idea if I'm holding this the right way up. Is this an established prop? I was so nervous, and in my very first take, I go to hand it to one of the actors and I drop it. And you could hear it, the whole set was, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to fire me. But yeah, it's pretty magical how it really, I guess that's the whole reason why we're here, because Trek was the first Comic-Con, right? So it's in all of us, right?
I think it goes without question. Like, Star Trek is one of the staples to which a lot of sci-fi, not in a bad way, but like owes penance. I mean, as a boy growing up in the American 90s, there were two major sci-fi staples in the zeitgeist, and that was Star Trek and Star Wars. And with the explosion of the ability to produce content, I think this panoply of sci-fi that's available today comes from how we fell in love with, these earlier two benchmarks. And I feel like, honestly, like Star Trek is kind of the department store that holds down a mall with cons, like you've got the Macy's, and then the rest of the mall is everything else that feeds, gets to be there because of the traffic that's driven by the main one. And I don't mean that in a bitter way at all. I'm grateful for the culture that Star Trek has helped engage. And compared to my show, I don't think the show creators ever meant this, but a lot of people have, unrelated to each other, told me that they feel like The Expanse is kind of a direct opposite of Star Trek. Because Star Trek is optimistic about the future of humanity. it's centered on this idea of abundance. We invent faster than light technology. We can make all the food we want. There's no more money. Everyone can get their needs met. It's based on a future of abundance and optimism. And The Expanse is a suggestion of, no, in the future, we will continue to act the way humans do. Resources will dwindle. There will be scarcity, there will be competition, and there will be division. And so it is a very indirect, like, counterpoint to Star Trek. And I just don't think anything, I think everything exists within the conversation created by some of these giant sci-fis. Yeah. Sorry.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you think The Expanse would exist if it wasn't for Star Trek's optimism? I mean, was there a rise in science fiction that was, dystopic? Dystopic? Yeah, because of the optimism of Star Trek.
Well, The Expanse was a series of 7 books first that were very successful, that were then turned into the show. And I had the pleasure of sitting down with one of the writers, Ty Frank. He's a fucking genius, and woe be to me to try and speak for him. But I think I would agree with, like, your question. I think sci-fi makes people so excited about the future. Look at all the shit we're going to be able to do someday. Look at all the we're going to cure diseases. There will be no need for wars and stuff. And I think they maybe saw that optimism, and they wanted to suggest that's possible, but we need to work on ourselves lest we just continue our cycles that we've been doing for thousands of years, no matter how advanced our technology is. And there's a brilliant episode of, I just watched season 3 of Orville since last con, and there's that episode where Kelly, the first officer, she stops someone who comes from a lesser evolved civilization from stealing technology, because she thinks the technology will advance her civilization. And Kelly has to teach her, no, we gave technology to a civilization that wasn't ready, and they destroyed each other. So your society has to get its heart right before they're ready for these destructive gifts. Sorry, I talked a lot.
Yeah, that's really good. That's a good. That's a good analogy, and that's a good thing to bring up. It's like you have to earn it.
Yeah.
Society has to earn the future that you see in Star Trek. And the Orville, actually. I think the Orville is essentially a hopeful show, and Seth wanted it to be, which is great, but this leads into a greater thing. So you're hosting this, aren't you? But a greater thing where... on previous panels at cons, it's been discussed and highlighted that, science fiction has a great responsibility, to envisage a future that we can work towards, as a hopeful thing. But you're right. The great thing about The Expanse, and I love The Expanse, is that, one, it's very gritty, cerebral science fiction, but also that it highlights the difficulties that we will take with us into space if we're not careful.
Yeah. If we don't go to therapy first.
Everyone should have free therapy.
You should have planetary therapy. Let me grab that mic, because you guys are dropping mad facts, and I love it. No, my mic died. I think that one great thing about all of our respective franchises is that it does offer different versions of what could happen, and I think it's definitely a reminder to humanity. Hey, get your shit together. Because any kids in the audience? So I saw part of Kate's panel where there was a kid and she Nickelodeon or whatever, Netflix or something like that. Telling humanity get your shit together, or something worse could happen, or if you do get your shit together, something wonderful could happen. A la Star Trek, even though Star Trek still has its issues, but they have advanced in many different ways. I love your mall analogy because I was just thinking, usually on each side of the mall, you have your Nordstroms and then you have your Sears. And then everything else in between is pretty much what keeps them all going. So how would you guys say your respective franchises has it really like helped your career in terms of like skyrocketing it because of the nature of what sci-fi does in relation to like other franchises like true crime franchises or comedy franchises or something like that? To myself, I always feel like things like Star Trek, Star Wars, those type of like franchises being so big, it takes a career to a height that is unlike any other type of shows or franchise and stuff. So have you all found that has actually helped in a big way like Star Trek does in Star Wars and some of the other ones?
I am not a working actor. I am a working class actor. I have an agent and a manager in LA, and I haven't worked in a couple years, but I got an agent and a manager, and I'm auditioning all the time. And for me to say I want to do high concept fantasy or sci-fi would be like, well, you want any work, right? And I'm like, yeah, of course, absolutely. But given that I'm looking for any job I can get, like being a fan of sci-fi, I was a sci-fi kid. Getting to be on a sci-fi show was the gift of a fucking lifetime. It was like I got to be on a spaceship and push touch screens and boop and beep buttons, and I was in a gunfight, mew mews, pew pews. It was great.
I love your analogy, your sound effect.
Yeah. Pew pews, mew mews. So even though I still have a day job when I go back to Chicago, I'm a furniture salesman on the side. Getting to do stuff like this, getting to engage with sci-fi, and having something to offer the sci-fi community the way I did has been. If I never do it again, I'm so grateful I got to do high budget fantasy at least once.
Sneak attack. I was 23, and it's just surreal to me because when I was growing up as a little girl, I was obsessed with the Dark Crystal.
Oh, me too.
Obsessed. Anything Henson touched, the Storyteller, Labyrinth. Like, I didn't connect with humans very well, so I just lived in my make-believe land of fairies. And then years later, I'm actually working with that company, and it was only meant to be one episode, and I had no idea what I was doing. I did 3 years of acting, but we never did any film work in our acting school. We did news reading. That's the only thing on camera that we did. So when I got on set, I was trained in method acting, so I knew how to be an alien, and I knew how to fall into this character and really like surrender to the moment. But I had no training, like missing marks, overlapping people while they're talking, not hitting the light. Like the crew must have just been, what the heck is going on, you know? And I just sort of learned as I went along. And they delivered me a script for episode 16. And I was like, oh, no, that's not my script. I'm only one episode. And they went, no, it's got your name on it. And I went, what? So I sat down and I opened it up and there was Chiana lines in it. I was like, oh, fuck. So I rang my agent and I was like, hey, they want me for another episode. And they went, no, it's just one. I'm like, I'm reading episode 16 and Chiana's in there. And they're like, oh, fuck, give them a call. And it ended up being 5 years. And it's surreal to me because as I said before, my main body of work is actually non-sci-fi stuff. So in Australia, even though the series was shot in Australia, it wasn't really shown. So I'm cops and robbers and doctors and lawyers and the girl next door and all that kind of fun stuff, but not sci-fi. And then over here, all you know me as is Chiana. But it's funny because I can mostly walk around and not be recognised because the makeup was 3.5 hours, so I can kind of sneak in everywhere. So that's fun too. But yeah, it's been, you guys are my family. I've never had another job. I've never had a normal job. I've always been acting or doing Comic Cons, and now because of you guys, I make my own productions and music videos and short films and feature films and graphic novels as well. So you're my big family. So thanks for having me.
Did you do the new series of?
You did.
No.
Farscape?
No. The Dark Crystal.
Did Farscape happen and I wasn't? No, I would have loved to though, but no. I said to Brian, I sent him a message the other night. I was like, hey, can I please be on Fraggle Rock? Yes. And he's like, oh, we just finished shooting and we're waiting to see if it's going to be picked up for another season. I try like any show that they put out. I'm like, hey, Brian. He's like, how many times can I fire you? Go away.
There's new Fraggle Rock?
Yes.
Oh, wow, I'm so excited. I loved Fraggle Rock, and I loved The Dark Crystal. It was my labyrinth. I didn't watch The Labyrinth until I was like 22.
My dog's name is Fizzgig.
Fizzgig, yes, amazing.
It should, like Scorsese you just put you in everything.
Right, I agree.
Constantly bring you back, you know?
That's so awesome. Yes, definitely getting this job changed my career hugely. I had done TV before, straight acting. What a phrase to use here. I've never done straight acting. It was non-science fiction, heartfelt or comedy or whatever. Lots of theatre. Yeah, definitely changed my career just because it was a big American series. And as a Brit, that's quite hard to get generally, and I was very lucky. But I think the difference by doing a science fiction series compared to a non-science fiction series you touched upon is the fact that we get to meet the fans of the shows. I think if you do non-science fiction stuff, you might meet people in the street or whatever, but the great difference is we get to do Comic Cons and meet you all and hear what you think of the shows and how they could be better sometimes, which is brilliant because we can feed that back to the people who make it, That is really special. Having that relationship with all of you makes the difference, I think, for me. So it did change my career, but it's changed my life in ways that I did not expect.
Can I ask something? Hey, Rico, I'm curious to hear some of your answers to some of these questions, like what your relationship to sci-fi might have been and what your genres are outside of it and inside it and how it's affected your life.
Yeah. I've been a Trekkie ever since I was a kid. The original series at the time when it was the only thing Star Trek that was out, and it was the reruns that would come on after school. Like the whole after school lineup that we all used to watch. Coming home, and Star Trek. But even before that. It's Star Wars, even though Star Trek came first, but Star Wars was like, you couldn't tell me anything. Like, I remember when Star Wars first came out, all my friends went to go see it, and I couldn't go see it because I had laryngitis. And my mom was like, well, you can't do anything because you got laryngitis. And I was like, yeah, but she's like, as soon as you get well, we're there. And the day that she basically cleared me to being amongst humans again, we went downtown Chicago to I don't know what theater it was, but Star Wars. So, and you couldn't tell me nothing. I mean, I was Luke Skywalker for one Halloween, and I remember I didn't get the pants. I didn't understand exactly what kind of pants he wore. So I took karate when I was a kid. So I used the top of my karate shirt. Yeah, and I used my belt. And as far as the pants were concerned, I think I wore my long underwear. Okay. And my snow boots, and that was my Luke outfit. So, yeah. How long was that underwear? It was all the way down to the ankles. Yeah. It's because it's Chicago, it's cold, so that long johns. Yeah, long johns, long underwear. Yeah, long john. I guess they call it long johns. Yeah.
It's long underwear. In America, it's long underwear.
Long on. Okay, so I'm not crazy. Well, I am crazy, but that's beside the point. Yeah. Okay. But well,
Buttons for the butt.
no, that was yeah. And they flap down, and all you see is booty. No, it wasn't that. I'm stop. Gigi. I'd say be good, but be like speaking to a rock. I won't. It won't happen. Love you. No. Okay. Yeah, so it was great. But yeah, Star Trek, Star Wars, it changed a lot for me, being a fan, growing up, watching these shows, and really just relating to it in so many different ways, and then being a part of the franchise, and then just even better, and well, not better, but just added icing on the cake, getting Orville. And I auditioned for Orville like 3 or 4 times for different roles, and then it, ended up landing one, and then that was awesome. And then of course the con circuit really kicked in a lot more, and it just kind of grew from there, and it's been fun. I mean, my career, ironically enough, is actually more true crime drama in terms of the Rookie, S.W.A.T, which I recur on, NCIS, FBI International, stuff like that. But sci-fi, is because of my love of it, has always been like my happy place. And it's been like the thing that I see everything. I don't care if it's bad. I want to see it. Marvel Cinematic Universe, I grew up reading those comic books. So when those storylines came on, I'm like, okay, I know what they did there. They switched that and they did that, but it's still that storyline. I'm there for it. I got to see it all through because my fandom runs deep. I'm a big old nerd. So there you go. So yeah, that's it. We have only a few more, like 5 minutes. Okay, well, let's do this. I'm going to take one question from the audience. So somebody hit me. Oh, okay, but in 4 minutes.
Go.
Got it.
I got one over there.
I got one better for you. Try wearing a Luke Skywalker costume to Scarlet Michael in Ireland, where they filmed Last Jedi, and getting pictures in front of Luke's hut. I got it.
I would love to do it, man. I'd throw on the long johns again, too, for that. I'd make it happen, bro. I would do that. I would do that.
And actually, to briefly touch on that, outside of sci-fi, I think we forget fantasy a lot. And just like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, all of that is the opposite. It's in the past. But that stuff is the same stuff. It's high concept fantasy. So I'm sure who here is into past fantasy shows, stuff like too. See, it's the same thing as sci-fi. Yeah. All right. Anyway.
Hi, this is Aaron Douglas, Chief from Battlestar Galactica. You are watching Fandom Spotlight. Have fun and follow your fracking fandom.